Hey guys, it's Maxine. Thank you so much for watching. So today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I refreshed my client's balayage, and our goal here today is to go into like a deeper kind of an ashy balayage brown. And so I'm going to be refreshing, bringing up the lighter pieces towards her face again and adding in that dimension so that when I put the darker ashy toner on, you definitely still see some dimension and you don't just feel like you see it on the ends. So yeah, I'm going to be refreshing her balayage today, and definitely don't forget to subscribe to my channel, especially if you guys want to see more of these color videos. Also hit the bell for post notifications so that you're always notified every time I upload a new video. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Also, definitely don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's at Maxine Glynn and it's linked down in the description. And definitely follow me because I'm always posting all of my formulas on every post, so check it out for that. Okay guys, so if you want to see me refresh my client's balayage and the formulas that I use, then definitely keep watching. So for the lightener, I'm using Matrix Light Master 30 volume mixed with 40 volume, and I like to do this a lot. I like to mix like the volumes together to make a 35 volume or an in-between type of a thing, because sometimes I don't need like the strength of a 40, especially at the nape where I'm first starting on the first section, but also 30 might not be strong enough. And when I mix up another bowl, if I have to mix up another bowl when I get closer to like the top of the head, then I might just add 40. But yeah, so for now I'm doing the 35, and I like the lightener, like the consistency kind of medium. I hate when it's too thick. I feel like it's going to dry out and stop working too quick. But then I also hate when it's too watery because I feel like there's not enough lightener in it and you need the lightener for the strength. And yeah, now I'm adding an Olaplex into my lightener, and whenever I add it into the lightener, I try to only add a little bit because I don't want to weaken it. So yeah, I'm adding just a little bit of Olaplex in, but it's really good to add because it just creates that strength in the hair. It rebuilds the bonds as the lightener is working on the hair, so it's just so good to use and to add. And yes, I did film this on Halloween, so that's why I look like a mermaid in this video, and I have mermaid makeup, and I'm looking all sorts of crazy, but that's okay. I love Halloween, and this was my year to be a mermaid. Anyway, I'm starting off with my client's hair by parting behind the ears, and I'm doing like the 2 quadrants, you know, just wherever she naturally parts her hair, and then down behind the ears on each side. And I'm beginning the first section down by the nape of her neck, and yeah, I'm just going to be taking one big slice and I'm going to be starting to paint the balayage. Sometimes it depends on how dimensional my client wants the hair, but you know, we want to leave a lot of dimension in her hair because she does want to keep it dark, so I'm leaving a nice big chunk by her hairline. We don't need to do the blonde too close to her hairline in this client, so that's fine. But yeah, I'm just starting off by painting the lightener on all of the ends and totally saturating it with lightener. And then I'm kind of just holding where all of that hair is that I just put all the lightener on. And I'm making my initial shape. So I'm doing like a V shape or, you know, a really kind of strong U shape. So I just like to start off by just making the initial shape. And then I go in and start feathering it and blending it, and that's how I'm kind of like back combing with my, you know, balayage brush a little bit. I'm back combing the shape that I just created. So I don't really start off with the blending because I feel like that takes so long to, you know, get the shape right while you're blending it. I don't know. So this is just like my, you know, perspective on it. I like to just make the shape that I want first and then just go ahead and quickly blend it up. And I always flip the piece upside down like this because you got to do the same shape on the underneath. It could be a little bit messier on the underneath. It doesn't have to be perfect. The shape's already kind of made. You could see the lightener like kind of poking itself through. So I just quickly brush, back comb all of these little, you know, harsh lines out and just make sure it looks all blended. And then the underneath is good to go. And whenever I'm done with the underneath, I go back really quick along the top of this and make sure that the blend is just nice, because however it looks on the hair is exactly how it's going to lighten. So you don't want it to have any weird blotches or, you know, any kind of weird like thing going on. So I always just quickly, you know, blend it out again, and then I sandwich it between two foils like you just saw there. And now I'm bringing down the next section. I do it about like a 1/2 inch apart. Like I definitely want to give her enough light pieces in her hair, but I don't want to do it too close together because I definitely want to keep this dark in her base color. I don't want to over highlight it, if you will. And anyway, now that we're on a wider section of her head, and now it's closer from the ear to ear part, and it's not so close to the nape, the section's a lot wider. So when I'm working my way up the head like this, now instead of just doing the one balayage piece, I'm doing two next to each other. So I'm going to have a balayage slice on the left and a balayage slice on the right. And I know that the angle right now on the left side of the head is kind of like not really in frame. That's why I usually only show me balayaging the right piece of hair, but I'm just trying to leave this part in so you can get an idea of me doing a slice of balayage on the left side of the head, and then in the next clip you'll see me doing the balayage on the right side. So it's kind of like a bricklay pattern at this moment. I have the one balayage slice at the nape and then the two sitting on top of each other, and then working up the head, it's going to be the two slices next to each other like the rest of the time. So it'll be two slices, sitting next to each other. And then when I get to the very top of the head, we're going to be getting back into the one slice because the crown is always a smaller section. So yeah, you'll see as I get closer to the top. And I don't always show this part because I feel like it's an unneeded part of the video, but right when I'm done balayaging the slice, I put the foil underneath and I lay the slice on top of the foil, and then I quickly wipe my hands off every time. So when it's laying on the foil waiting for me to sandwich the top piece over, I quickly wipe my hands off with a towel. That's the part I don't show. And then with clean hands, I grab the foil and I sandwich it over the top. And this just helps so that the foils aren't sitting with like messy lightener all over them and stuff like that. And so yeah, this is the other slice of balayage on the right side of the head, which is a lot easier to see, so that's why I like to show this side of the head way more often. But yeah, I pretty much saturate with lightener all over like the ends halfway down the strand, and I really saturate it good. And now I'm making my shape, which is a V shape. So I'm just initially making the shape, and then I'm going to start getting into the blending. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm feathering up, and yeah, I just find that I go a lot quicker with balayage this way. So yeah, so I'm just feathering up, and I'm actually, you could see like in this piece I feathered up in that W. So I started off with a V, and then as I was feathering up, I thought, oh, you know what, there's a kind of void of dark in this middle part. Let me blend. That's like sometimes each piece it becomes different. That's like the creative perspective. So I don't do the W on every piece. Sometimes it doesn't like remind me of like a void, you know what I mean? So I just do a V and blend it like a little with that U shape. But in this case, this slice of hair just it really felt dark in the middle there, so I started to blend up with that W. And now I'm just sandwiching the pieces together, putting the foil on the underneath, sticking the ends to the side. Now I'm going to be wiping off my hands and then sandwiching a foil on the top and smoothing it down to stick the two together. And it really holds it in place pretty good because of the lightener. Obviously it's like a paste. It kind of helps to stick it together. So now I'm working on another piece of hair. This is another slice. I think I already did the slice on the left, and obviously I'm only showing you guys the ones on the right because you can really see it better. But I'm doing the same thing. I'm, just saturating the ends really well, making the shape, and yeah, just blending up as I go. In this case, right now, it seems like I'm blending up as I go. But yeah, I mean, I kind of just feel like every piece is different, and this is like what's nice about balayage is you can have that kind of creative escape. So sometimes I don't blend it right away, and obviously right now I do. I guess I was in the zone. But yeah, I mean, this piece definitely still went by pretty fast, and yeah, it's just good when that happens. And now I lifted up the underneath. As you can see the harshness with where the lightener kind of just stopped, in the middle of the strand. And that's why it's so important to check it out, lift up the piece, blend out all of this underneath. You won't have any weird blotches, it's so important to like blend so much with the lightener before, and because when you do the glaze or the toner, you don't have to want to like hide anything with the glaze or the toner. Obviously, the glaze and the toner will hide every like mistake basically, but what happens when the glaze starts to wear off or wash away, after the client like has been using their color treated shampoo, and then eventually all the color kind of fades a bit, and you don't want them to start noticing any weird like balayage lines or anything like that. You want this to grow out like super seamless. So the blending up with the lightener is like super important. The glaze and the toner is just supposed to really add the tone and complement that fade or blend even more. It's not supposed to like be the only part of the fade, you know? So anyways, that's why I stress the importance of blending even with the lightener. And now you can see I'm closer to the crown, and definitely at the crown now. I'm taking only one piece because you can see that the foil section that I'm working on right now is smaller. So now I'm making the initial V, blending it up in the U as well. And I feel like because the piece is usually wider, I usually tend to go up a little bit more in a W, or I try to like just blend it up a little bit more in the middle so that there's not so much dark in the middle there when the piece is a bit wider like that. But yeah, just feathering. It's like the madness of balayage is just feathering the whole time, and yeah, just blending out everything before you tuck it away in a foil so that it lifts the way it actually blends out with the lightener. Like however it looks with the lightener on it is how it's going to lift. So yeah, just always keep that in mind. So definitely just blend as much as you can, and yeah. And now you're going to see my trick to whenever I take a really big section, I'm just laying the, foil horizontally like this, because then I'm not restricted to the shape of the foil. So yeah, laying it out horizontally just gives me the option to take as big of a section as I want and not have to worry about fitting it into a foil. So I'm just doing the horizontal section and then laying down the foil for the rest of the ends and now sandwiching it however I feel like it needs to be sandwiched, but it's usually vertical on the ends and horizontal on the root. That way I have a really big, space to work with. And yeah, so this very, very top crown section is the last part of the back, and it's still, I'm taking this, one slice towards the back, and it's definitely smaller of a section than the last one was, but I'm still taking that one slice back and making the initial V shape and blending this all up, and yeah, feathering it all up and tucking it away in a foil. And then I will be working on the left side of the head, but because you can't really see the left side, I don't really show the left side, so I'll be showing me balayaging the entire right side of the head. But both sides are really the exact same. They're done the same exact way with the same pattern and placement. The only difference is more on your side of the fence, you know what I mean? So the only difference for you is that if you're lefty or righty, then it'll be the easier side, if that makes sense. So if I'm painting with my right hand, then the right side of the head will be easier because the whole face frame around the face, which is the money piece, the most important piece type of thing, will be like right next to my right hand. So it's just a nice, easy reach and comfortable reach, for whatever hand you're painting with. So for you, if you're painting with your left hand and you're on the left side of the head, you're doing the same thing. It's like a nice, easy reach. But whenever you're doing the opposite side, it's like you're reaching over your hand. So whatever hand you're holding with, the reach is the opposite way. So your two arms are kind of like crisscrossed and you're reaching the opposite way, kind of over your other hand, if that makes sense. So really the only difference of the two sides is for you. And I'm ambidextrous, so I can paint with my left hand as well, but I'm quicker with my right hand because I do it more often, you know what I mean? But yeah, anyway, so the first piece that I do on the side is I take a piece near the temple, and I just paint a normal balayage piece with a nice big deep V shape, and I really concentrate the lightener around the hairline like big time because that's the money piece, that's the face frame. And so I always put the lightener on the top, the front where, like the very front piece, and then underneath, like I kind of just do I really just try to saturate that very front, stripe, if that makes sense. But it never comes out stripey because if you're doing the feathering and then the glaze after, in the end, it always comes out nice and blended and seamless. But definitely I always concentrate a lot of lightener in that very front piece. And yeah, I'm just kind of working around the shape of the V and feathering up like I do every other piece. But that's the only difference about the face frame, is just like extra concentration around the face frame, and that's about the only difference. And then I put a foil underneath the slice, stick all the ends to it, wipe off my hands really quick, and sandwich a piece over the top. And now my hands are clean again to touch, the next strand of hair. I don't have to worry about wiping my hands off because I already did it. And yeah, this, like I said, just keeps everything very clean and you don't have to worry. It's also seamless, so you can work on the next piece right away. You don't have to worry about your hands, So always have a towel nearby. I always have at least 2 towels because all of the wiping of the hands, I feel like sometimes you just need a clean towel after a while. But some people like to have damp towels near them also. I would do that too sometimes depending on the client, but usually I just have a dry towel and a water bottle, so if I ever need to dampen anything, I have the water bottle there. But it's also good, like, if you accidentally get, a little bit of lightener on your arm or something, like, if, you don't want to have to worry about it burning you. So it's just, you could quickly wipe it off quick, or if something gets on your client, it's just nice to always have water and a towel next to you just in case. But yeah, so now I'm working on this next piece, same thing, really concentrating around the hairline and the face frame. Yeah, I would say definitely like one of the most important things about balayage is highlighting the face frame and blending it up really nice, because balayage is supposed to look like you got your hair lightened by the sun after a long day at the beach, and whenever the sun oxidizes and lightens your hair, the 2 places that the sun lightens it is around the hairline and around the ends. So, definitely making sure that the hairline is nicely saturated with the lightener is super important. It just makes it look so much more natural. And it also, when the lightener is brought up around the face like that, it really highlights the face. Especially when you have the right tone picked out for the glaze, it really highlights the face. It really gives you like that glow to your skin tone. So it can do so much. And another thing that I want to note about the face frame, the money piece, the highlight in the front, on the baby hairs, is that it's okay to make it more bold than you would normally make the pieces in the face. So you can make the lightener like even thicker around the hairline, because whenever you do the blow dry, it always, like, in the end, like, the face frame, you want it to be more bold than the rest. So don't worry about putting on like a thicker layer of like the V on the right, if that makes sense. So like right now as I'm making like the V shape on the right, maybe on all of the other pieces of balayage, you might try to make this kind of skinny, if that makes sense. But around the face frame, you almost like purposely want to make it like double the size, like make it thicker than you normally would. Make sure it stands out bolder, because whenever you blow dry it and now all the strands of hair kind of like fan out and blend together, it always seems to, get more subtle. So definitely don't be afraid to make that front hairline piece bolder with the lightener and thicker of a, like a strand. So yeah, you could really have it stand out in the face frame so much more. And yeah, I'm just blending this all up. And also don't forget, when it comes to the very money piece, you want to make sure that the lightener is really saturated around all 3 parts of the front. So on the top, the underneath, and even like the front where the face is. So just really get all around that very front strand. Make sure that it's super, super bold. And of course, I'm flipping the piece upside down and feathering all the underneath, making sure it's nice and blended. And yeah, it really helps. And I always do the very top just in case too, making sure that that's nice and smooth before I tuck everything away in the foil. And on this client, I stopped doing as much of a V shape and I'm doing more of a U shape as I get closer to the top of the head, because I definitely want to make sure that the face frame is blended out, and it's, even though we want it to be bold, we don't want it to be like one random stripe. So I'm making sure that it's definitely nice and blended along with the rest. And also, I did go up a little bit more with that W shape, as you can see. In that one little middle area, I used the W shape, but I concentrated it closer to the hairline area instead of in the very middle, because that's going to also benefit that face frame. And of course, I'm sandwiching a horizontal foil over the top and folding it out of her face, and also it helps to lock it in place. And I'm almost done with the top. I think I have 2 more slices to go. And yeah, I'm doing the same thing, taking a nice wide section so that I don't have to, use too many foils and it doesn't take so long. Also, along the face frame piece, just pay attention to how I'm slicing this. I'm taking the very front chunk and I'm taking the whole chunk, and then I'm kind of veering my tail comb to slice underneath that slice that I want to have. But yeah, that just helps me take an even thicker piece in the front so that that face frame, once again, gets nice and bold and I have more hair in the very front face frame. So I definitely like to take a thicker chunk for the very front. So that's why I kind of go up in a little like half moon shape. I take my comb and I take the nice chunk in the front, and then I go up around to grab the rest of the hair for the slice. It's hard to tell, but try to pay attention and you'll definitely, be able to see it next time. And I'm definitely just continuing to blend up in the V shape, kind of blending it into a U next, and then I'm going to also do the same thing I did on the other piece and use the W shape, but concentrate the W part closer to the face frame. And yeah, I'm just going to keep doing that, and I'm going to do it on the next piece as well. I know it's kind of confusing when I say start off with the V and then the U and then the W. I think depending on the client, sometimes I just stay with the V and I just use strict V's throughout the whole thing, or strict U's or whatever. But, you know, in a lot of cases, like what I'm doing in this with this client is I kind of mix up the shapes, and it just helps to kind of make this the most natural as possible, but also with the blending. So I might start off with one slice with the V, and as I'm blending it and kind of trying to shape where I want this lightener to sit, I might transition it into a U because of the blending. You know what I mean? And then like this, that's what I did in this case. And then I transitioned it into the W because of the blending. So it's not like a strong V anymore. It kind of transitioned into the next shapes because I was working it with the blending and all that. So sometimes it changes as we go, or you know, I alternate pieces and stuff, and it depends on the client. Sometimes I don't change it. Sometimes I just blend out strict V's and leave it at that. But doing it the way I'm doing it today and kind of changing the shape a little as I'm blending it just helps it be super natural, and you know what I mean? Just depends on the person. And yeah, so this is the last slice that I'm working on, the very end. And after I'm done applying this piece and tucking it away, I'm going to check the back and see where we're at. But always, I pop them under the dryer and I let it sit for like 15 minutes, and that's usually pretty good for the back of the head. So after 15 minutes under the dryer, I pretty much always rinse out the whole back. And then I pop them back under the dryer for another like 15 minutes, and then I rinse out the side, either one side at a time, or I rinse out both sides at the same time. It really just depends on how hot the dryer was, or maybe how well it lifted. And, you know, in my client's case, it's probably 15 minutes on each section, if I'm remembering it correctly. But yeah, the dryer is really beneficial to lightening any type of a lightener or color, but especially balayage, because a lot of the times the lightener is just sitting above the strand when it comes to blending. You know, when you blend it up, it just kind of sits on top of the surface of the slice. So you really want the heat to really help to strengthen and lighten the color out, because it's not as saturated, like the lightener is not as saturated towards the root part. So you definitely, I feel like, always pretty much need the heat to help to strengthen it. So I'm pretty much always popping my clients under the dryer after a balayage. It really just depends, but and then I also, if I want the heat to really touch the ends of the hair, I'll fold the foils up and clip it, and then put her under the dryer like that way, just so that the dryer is not only touching like the root part, and I can get the ends up in the heat dryer also. So yeah. Now I'm just folding up the ends into the foil. A lot of people ask me how I get my balayages with long hair to get into the one foil and not have to do multiple foils. I just fold up the ends and I tuck it to the side so that it's not touching where we blended, but it's still in the foil. And yeah, now I'm just sandwiching everything on the top. And also check out these foils. How cool is this? This like really fun different colors. You know, it's kind of perfect for the fact that I'm dressed as a mermaid today at work. But 2020 kind of sucks, so I decided to get fun foils. Why not? Anyway, yeah, so this is how the back is lifting. It's still pretty much brown, so it's a light brown, which is good. It's lifting and everything. My client's end result, she wants it to be darker anyway, so it's not, doesn't have to be like a perfect pale yellow, so I'm just lifting it as light as we can pretty much, and not really over stressing it. But I'm definitely going to pop her into the dryer for 15 minutes and let this lighten up a bit more for sure. And I always make sure that the foils are pretty tight when I'm putting them under the dryer, because I don't want any air to come into the foil. But as you can see, I feel like it kind of dried out a little bit towards the root, so I just took her back to my station really quick, and I'm just resaturating some of these pieces towards the root, just on the very top, just to make sure nothing dried out and it lifts nice and strong and everything. And yeah, I'm going to put a piece of foil over the very top so that that doesn't happen, and definitely keep processing it. Now, this is after the 15 minutes under the dryer, and the back's all done and ready to go. As you can see, it's definitely more yellow. It's a warmer yellow, it's a darker yellow, but that's okay because we're not going super light. So I rinsed the back out, popped her back under the dryer for another 15 minutes, and now the left side is ready to go because this sat on a little bit longer than the opposite side. So now I'm just taking the foils out and turning my client slightly to the left and rinsing out the left side. Then I'm going to pop her back under the dryer and mix her glaze while the right side is still processing underneath the dryer, and then I'm going to take her back to the sink and wash everything out completely, condition it, and now I have her back at my station ready to get the glaze put on, and I'm combing it all out, making sure it's nice and towel dried. And I always warn my clients that it's going to be super crazy looking during the in-between stage. It's going to be really yellow and stripy, but don't worry, once the color melt goes on, it starts to work instantly. And I always explain that the very first glaze color, which is what I'm putting on right now, which is the root color, is always darker, so it's going to bring that root color back into that stripe where they hate seeing like that harshness at the root. And the darker root toner is going to bring that root color back to the darker stage. And yeah, so for the glaze, for the root color, I have here mixed up Matrix Color Sync 5N 6A equal parts with 10 volume, and I also put in a drop of 8CG. And I want to just explain why I used 8CG, because somebody pointed out on my Instagram they were just curious to know why I put CG in sometimes of my root formula. And I do this for a very specific reason. I feel like it's like my secret formula, because I pretty much do this on my dark haired clients. So whenever I have naturally dark haired clients and I'm trying to blend this harsh yellow into like this darker root color melt, I always like to add that like little drop of CG in it just to prevent it from turning green. And it really does do that like big difference, because if you don't have the CG in it, it might turn green when you're going so dark like this. So because the lightener always lifts really nice at the root, and it's usually always a lot lighter on the root than it lifted on the ends, if I'm gonna now put on a dark root color of like a level 5, right, like the hair needs to be kind of filled, if you will. Like if you're gonna put a level 5 on like super blonde hair, the world of color says you're supposed to fill the hair, but I feel like you don't always necessarily need to fill the hair. You just have to put that warmth into the formula. So as long as I add like a pinch of a CG, and in this case I'm adding 8 CG because I needed a little bit of a darker copper since I'm going to the level 5, and most of the time I add a level 10 CG as a pinch into my root formula because it's more of like a peachy tone. But because I'm using 6A as well in her root color, I really wanted it to be a little bit more of a copper because I really wanted to prevent this from turning at all green. My client wants this ashy color anyway, so it's definitely good like that it's gonna pull ashier with the 6A and the 5N, but the 8CG is not gonna make this warm at all because it's literally just a drop and it's just preventing it from turning green. So that's why I add the CGs as my secret formula, but I feel like nobody else really does this, not that I know of. A lot of people would like fill the root first and then darken it, but I feel like that's like sometimes not really needed. I think as long as you add the drop of copper into the formula, you're really saving yourself, Anyway, and I know copper doesn't necessarily cancel green. I know red cancels green, but copper does minimize any green, so that's just why I'm doing that. You don't need red to cancel the green all the time. As long as you have that like bit of copper to minimize the green is all you need. So we're just preventing it here anyway. And I just want to quickly make note, whenever I apply the root color of the color melt, I try to only put it about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch down on the very hairline pieces, and then on the other parts of the hair, like towards the ear, I like to drag it down a little bit more. And then when I drag it down with my comb, it kind of like pulls down even farther anyway. But yeah, not dragging it so far down towards the whole hairline money piece area helps that nice face frame stay lighter around the face. Okay, and so the formula that I have mixed up for her ends is definitely darker. Like in this case, we're going darker. Usually I would keep the ends a lot lighter of a color because of that fade and the gradient, but this client wanted to go darker, and we wanted this color to look more like a light brown on the ends. So I have here mixed up Matrix Color Sync with 10 volume equal parts, 8N and 6A. And then that makes a level 7, and as it processes, it turns into a level 6. So we wanted this to be light brown. So I'm using a level lighter than I normally would just so that it doesn't get too dark. And I also have 10 CG pinched just a little bit into this formula as well. Normally, I don't go with any copper on the ends, especially with the balayages. But like in this case, since my client did want to be a light brown, we did have to go darker, and I did have to add that 6A into it. And I didn't want any chances of this turning even the littlest tinge of green because I didn't want to have to correct it later in the sink, you know what I mean? So adding that like little pinch of a 10 CG, that peachy color, it's very, very light on the copper. There's like super little hints of copper in that, so just a little pinch of it will just help this color to be like a perfect complementing color for her skin tone, and there's no weird, underlying tones or anything. But yeah, this color came out so good. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I'll be showing the end result in just 1 minute. But yeah, I'm just going and I'm putting this all over the ends, and now I'm just kind of melting the two colors together. I'm purposely mixing the root color in with the color that I have on the ends, because then it kind of creates that in-between shade. So I feel like that's how you get like the perfect color melt. So the formula that I put on the root is like a 5.5, and the ends are like a 7. So if I'm purposely mixing those two colors together, it's going to make that in-between shade. It'll be like a level 6 or something, like perfectly in the middle. But I just finished applying that everywhere, and I let that sit on for like, I think 5 to 10 minutes. I didn't want it to sit too long. I probably let it sit on for 10 minutes, but so because the formula was already darker, I definitely didn't want this to get too dark, so I always check something like this after about 5 minutes, and then I judge to see if I want to leave it on longer. And now I always love to blow dry the very front first for that big reveal, and we can see exactly how it turned out, and so that we can be excited while we style it for the rest of the way. But absolutely love this color. We're both very happy with it. I'm glad that my client's happy with it. And yeah, you have that nice dark root, and it blends into the light ends, and it's not too dark and it's not too light. It's perfect where she wanted it, like in that perfect light brown stage, very dark blonde. And yeah, I'm just going to finish styling this, and I'm going to run some beach waves through the ends. Love the beach waves on any color hair. And I just feel like it brings out the shine and the dimension. And like I said before, I really love blow drying the very front first, so that we can see that we love the color from the very start, and we can actually enjoy the rest of the time that we, style the hair. We already know we love it, and I feel like that's just really nice for the client too, to just like, because they're nervous like a lot of times about how it's going to turn out and stuff. So to get that kind of like nervous, energy out of the way, I just love to reveal it at the beginning. And yeah, so for the waves, I like to use, I think this is like a 1-inch iron, but I like to just keep it nice and soft and relaxed. It doesn't have to be too uniform. I love the like beachy waves, so definitely keeping like that mermaid vibes, especially today as I'm dressed like a mermaid. And yeah, it's really fun. And then after I let the hair cool off, and then I take some serum. I love the Paul Mitchell serum, the super skinny serum. I use a bunch of different kinds, but once the hair is all cooled off, whatever I have like at my station, and in this case it was the Paul Mitchell super skinny serum, I run it through my fingers, I put it all over my hands, and then I run it through the hair to break up all of the waves, so that this comes out really nice and relaxed looking, and the waves just come out so pretty and shiny. And sorry about the random chirps that are in this part of the video, because I have my parrot on my shoulder at the moment. It was the only way I can keep him quiet. And this is the final result. It's a nice light brown balayage, very nice and subtle, but also very natural, and it's not so subtle that you can't see that it's lightened on the ends. Yeah, we absolutely love this color. It comes out so nice on her skin tone and everything. Like, it really works. This is the type of client that I feel like can have a very ashy color, but also a very warm color. Like, she looks good with golds, but she also looks good with ashy colors, which is kind of rare. I feel like sometimes people are either one or the other, but, sometimes you get those certain clients that can do both, and she is definitely one of them. This is a very ashy color though, and you might be able to see little hints of some warmth here and there, and that's because of the copper that I pinched into it, but it's so much better than seeing little hints of green. Anyway, yeah, because you want ashy but you don't want green. Anyways, yeah, we love how this color came out. Looks so good on her. She definitely wanted to go deeper for this season. It's more winter time at the moment, and she just wanted it to be a little bit deeper for the winter, and in the summer we usually go a little bit lighter. It very much depends. We switch it up a lot. But yeah, we love the dimension and how the beach waves like sit in her hair. Her hair waves up so nice. So the waves always just look so good in her hair. And yeah. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. Definitely ask me any questions you have in the comments, and I hope you guys got a lot of information out of this video. I hope you can apply it to your own color and your own balayages, no matter what level you are at. And yeah, definitely don't forget to subscribe, especially if you want to see more color videos in the future, and also hit the bell for post notifications so that you're always notified every time I upload a new video. I put out new videos all the time. Definitely give this video a like if you liked it, and also follow me on Instagram. It's at Maxine Glynn. I'm going to leave it in the description bar below, but I always post all of the formulas on my Instagram posts, so definitely check it out for that, for future reference if you ever need help with formulas. And yeah, alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
So give me your all. I'll take it to Mars. Oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me breathe.